What is going on, folks? This is blueandgold.com's Mike Singer and Mason Plummer here with another weekly recruiting wrap. Very busy week in the world of Notre Dame Fighting Irish football recruiting. On Wednesday, it became official that Louisiana running back Logan Diggs signed with Notre Dame. He actually inked back in December. Kind of a long story and how this all came together. So make sure you check out some of our past videos at blueandgold.com for some of the backstory there. But, pretty much signed with Notre Dame back in December, and then maybe had some second thoughts on that leading up to, announcing his decision publicly. But we want to talk about Logan Diggs, the football player. Mason, we like him a lot. What do you see on his film?
Yeah, he's explosive, and he's not a huge guy by any means. He's not like a Derrick Henry, like a 6'4", 250-pound running back, but he's not afraid of contact either. He's about 6'1", 190, and he's not afraid to run through guys. And you can see he jumps over guys right there as well. So he's a full three-down running back. He can catch it out of the backfield. He's explosive. He's going to make guys miss. He can pass block as well. So that's why I really think he lends himself to being a three-down back at Notre Dame in the future. He doesn't need to come off on third down or in pass blocking situations, which I think is huge. And for Tommy Rees in the future, you don't have to sub off your running back. He can really do it all. I think he can play similarly to Kyren Williams. He's maybe doesn't have the home run speed that Kyren Williams has, but surely that's something he can improve on. And I think on this one, you can see him run away from a lot of guys. So maybe he doesn't have the 4.4 speed, but he's definitely not slow by any means.
Yeah, I think the speed is the one thing that doesn't make him like a high 4-star or 5-star level caliber running back, because he's not the fastest, but he's playing some good ball here in the state of Louisiana, and can break some touchdown runs. We know that Lance Taylor loves his all-purpose backs. He uses a lot on the recruiting front. That he did coach Christian McCaffrey at Stanford, and of course McCaffrey is I think he's like the highest paid running back in league history. So he's got a pretty solid resume there, and I think Diggs fits that. Blocking, catching the ball in the backfield, runs well, split him out. He played receiver in his high school career as well. So I think this was a good for Notre Dame.
Mike, Notre Dame finished with its first top 10 recruiting class according to Rivals ranking since 2013. That, of course, being the season or the recruiting class after Notre Dame went to the national championship against Alabama in 2012. How significant is this, and what does it mean for Notre Dame in the future to crack the top 10 officially according to Rivals rankings?
Yeah, I don't know what it means. We'll kind of find out. So you can find this article at blueandgold.com, but here is the breakdown of here's all of Brian Kelly's classes. So people talk about Notre Dame needs to get out of that 6 to 15 range, get into the top 5. They just need to get into the top 10. This is the first top 10 class since 2013 and just barely made it in. So I think when you look at this, like, all right, number 10 class, number 22 class, 14, 11, from 14 to 19, they had consecutive years of a finish in the 11 to 14 range. So I think when you look at this, you're like, man, like Notre Dame's consistently outplaying their recruiting rankings. Like if you're one of these people who just goes right on stars and recruiting rankings, then you would look at this and be like, okay, Notre Dame should be consistently finishing around number 10 in the country. And in the past 3 years, they made the college football playoff twice and finished in the top 5 in the polls at the end of the season, like Brian Kelly and Brian Polian mentioned in their National Signing Day press conference this past Wednesday. So, it's certainly interesting. And then you look at that best class in the Brian Kelly era, some studs in there. 3 of the 4 5-stars the Irish landed ended up transferring and didn't play elsewhere. Of course, Jalen Smith, the 1 5-star who stuck around. Will Fuller was in that class. It was an incredible class. I'm not trying to say Notre Dame doesn't need to recruit better, but because obviously they need to recruit and coach better, but just saying they need higher recruit ranking prospects, like that's not just true. Like if Notre Dame has a conviction about a 3-star, would you rather them not take the 3-star and rather take a 4-star that they don't like just because they want to make you happy in the meantime? Like, I don't know, Mason. That's kind of me on my soapbox.
Well, right, and that gets back to the initial point of people were saying, "Well, why aren't we getting, or Notre Dame's? Why aren't they getting more 4 or 5 stars?" Because then it comes down to you and I don't make the rankings, but I think a lot of people think we do. So that'd be you and I evaluating talent and essentially telling Notre Dame who they should be going after. You got to trust the staff. There's so many 3 stars that 3 stars according to whatever site, but that the staff sees as potentially a 4 or 5 star. That's just maybe slept on, as a lot of people say. So you have to trust the staff, and Notre Dame's developing talent arguably better than anybody in the country, considering that they're not getting the 4 and 5 stars consistently, but developing 3 stars into really, really good players. So I think it's a good thing. Notre Dame's on the up and up in recruiting. It's only going to get better with guys like Marcus Freeman. So I think it's important to stay around that top 10, continue to crack the top 10, and then maybe you'll find yourself in a top 5 here soon. You just got to keep the momentum going and let the guys know that, Notre Dame, that it has that 4 for 40 that they like to throw out there with like what you can have after football, but make sure that the football team is really successful as well. So I think both of those things go hand in hand.
I think it's important to note that it, like these rankings are like a data point, but they're just
Right.
not the be all end all. On Friday morning, Rivals released its top 25 recruiters of the year. You can also find this article at blueandgold.com if you want to check out the full story. But Charles Huff, who is Alabama's, I believe, his running backs coach, who has since taken the Marshall head coach position, he was named recruiter of the year. And then Rivals had the 25 other guys in the top 25, and Jeff Quinn was Notre Dame's representative. My personal opinion, if it was my choice, and I certainly gave this recommendation, I would have gone with Brian Polian, Notre Dame's recruiting coordinator, considering, Mason, that this was the most unprecedented recruiting cycle. With the pandemic, no recruits took a single official visit, and he was the primary recruiter for a few Notre Dame recruits, Kanukia, Josh Bryan. Nothing really to write home about there, but a secondary guy on pretty much every recruit in this class. Like he was involved in, was on those Zoom calls. Polian's the guy that kind of led what Notre Dame was doing digitally and virtually here on the recruiting trail. But Quinn's obviously a good choice too. But also, not to discount what Quinn's doing, but I feel like it's not that difficult to recruit offensive linemen in Notre Dame. So that's why I would have given it to Polian. But I mean, obviously, Mason, with the guys that Notre Dame brought in this 2021 class, you can't really argue with it too much.
Yeah, you can't argue against it, really. I know it's going to set the message board on fire. I haven't had a chance to check our message board with this post yet, but a lot of guys don't like to give Jeff Quinn the credit he really deserves. He's been a good recruiter, and you mentioned it is easy to recruit offensive linemen at Notre Dame, or at least that's what it seems like. But he's doing well with what he's been given as well, as far as coaching and coaching up talent. And I'm really excited to see what he does with this upcoming group, because I think it can be special. Joe Alt, Caleb Johnson, Blake Fisher, Rocco Spindler, more, man. Pat Coogan. And it's a really talented group. I think it could be one that goes down as one of the better ones for sure.
Yeah, I don't want to discredit or discount him if that's how that my spiel there came across. It's just, for me, I mean, it was those were the two guys I recommended, but I was like, if you were gonna let me pick, I would say Polian, because just kind
Right.
of given the cycle that we had this year.
All right, Mike, 2022 defensive end target out of Virginia, Aidan Gobera. You had a chance to talk to him. He actually went into Blue and Gold office, did a little interview with you. Kind of break that down for me. What all did you guys talk about?
Yeah, you find that, of course, on our YouTube page. I also put in a future cast pick in before he went to Notre Dame. At the time I put it in, he was like on his way to campus, and I didn't even know about it. I just was hearing really good things about where the Irish were at in their recruitment. Arrives at Notre Dame Monday night, spends Tuesday just walking around campus, just getting a feel for everything, and then left on Wednesday. And yeah, stopped by our blueandgold.com office and got to have that video interview that you can watch again here on our YouTube channel. 6'6", 230-pound defensive end, great kid. Notre Dame, Penn State battle, maybe Virginia Tech's in there a little bit, but I think that Notre Dame might be able to secure this one. And this is kind of, I touched on this. Would you rather Notre Dame staff not go after a 3-star guy if that's who they really want more than other 4-star guys. Like Notre Dame offered Aidan Gobera last May. Mike Elston wants him. Marcus Freeman came in, started recruiting Gobera right away. So I feel like, yeah, it's just, and he is a 5.7 3-star too. So he's just one notch below that 5.8 4-star. So there's different designations for the rankings, and he is someone that Rivals feels close, and of course he hasn't even played since his sophomore year. Sophomore year. Yeah, Virginia didn't have football this past fall, so he will actually be starting his spring season here pretty soon at Virginia. So yeah, I think Notre Dame's got a very good shot to win this recruitment, and will be one to keep an eye on, I would say, maybe in the near future. I mean, Mason, there's a ton of news that happened this week. We covered the National Signing Day stuff. Notre Dame finished its 2021 class with 27 signees, top 10 class, and all that good stuff. Focuses on the 2022, but I mean, we were talking about this before we started recruiting. That recording this. There's so much we could have discussed, but we're trying to keep this to a shorter video and not have it run 40 minutes. But we picked these 2023 tight end offers: Jackson Howard, Mac Markway, excuse me. John McNulty offered them on it was Wednesday evening. Why do you think this is notable, Mason?
I think it's notable because McNulty's getting after it right away, and once he goes after guys, he really stays on them. We saw an early commitment from Jack Nichol in the 2022 class, and he was just about Notre Dame's first commitment. He was that was one that was kind of waiting in the wings for a while. I thought he was actually going to commit before Joey Tenona, the 4-star offensive lineman. So when McNulty gets his eyes on a guy and really wants him, he seems to get him. So I think it's important that he's locking down these two guys and really putting focus on them, and two studs, really. I mean, the offers speak for themselves. There isn't a Rivals ranking yet, but 45 offers for Howard and then 21 offers for Markway. That's a lot, man. You see some guys that go through their entire career and don't get 45 offers or even half of that. So Howard's definitely going to be one of the better tight ends in the country, maybe the best one. His film speaks for itself, and Markway's a stud too. So if Notre Dame can land just one of these guys, I think Howard's the one to get, but Markway's not a bad option either.
45 freaking offers.
Oh,
This is a sophomore. It's crazy. Mac Markway played with Jordan Johnson, Notre Dame signee, in the 2020 class. Markway would have been a freshman when Johnson was a senior. And of course, last spring, before Notre Dame hired Mike Mickens, they interviewed Robert Steeples, who is Markway's head coach at DeSmet in St. Louis. So some interesting little Irish ties there. Jackson Howard has a very strong athletic lineage. Markway does as well. So, I mean, and look, it's 2023, so it's a long ways away, but it's also tight end recruiting for Notre Dame. Like when Notre Dame offers quarterback, tight end, or offensive line, regardless of class, you are paying attention to that because they don't offer many. They just don't. Notre Dame will offer 20, 25 offensive linemen in a cycle, compared to, other schools would double, triple, quadruple that. Notre Dame will only offer a couple quarterbacks, tight ends, not many, because those are just positions that, just kind of you get early commitments from. So they're certainly notable. That's going to do it for this weekly recruiting wrap. Appreciate you guys sticking around to the end of the video. Please leave the like button before you get out of here and subscribe to our channel for more Notre Dame Fighting Irish football recruiting coverage.